All right. How are you? Hope you're doing well. It's been a while. My name is Phil,
My name is Terrence.
and welcome to Purpose Filled Life. Welcome to the channel. And Terrence, it's been a while. It's been a minute. How you been?
I'm alive and well. How are you, sir?
Still kicking. 2021, still alive, still healthy, working, thriving. So I can't complain. God is good.
He is, man. I think it's been a rough year for everyone, no matter what situation you come from or financial background. I think just this year, the past 2 years, and we won't put everything on COVID alone, but I think just in general, everybody's adapting to the new scenery, the new restrictions, the new way of living, and I think it's kind of weighing down on people mentally. How do you feel about your mental health right now? Our mental health in general.
I feel like personally, the past 3 months have put me in like in a lull state. Like I've just kind of just been just getting by. And me, I attribute it mostly just to work and teacher life and the amount of hours, working in the schoolhouse and then outside of the schoolhouse, endless tasks and kids will wear down on you, all these things. And so I mean, I kind of blame it on the, just the work life and everything that comes with it. But as I've spoken to other people, I've noticed that something about coming out of 2020 and going into 2021 it's just been mental health has been the the thing that's affecting a lot of my peers and colleagues. And so it's not easy because it's just a lot has happened, and it's like we're all trying to find our center again. But you can try to work out, eat healthier, and stay positive, but I can't help and shake off this feeling that there's just like dark cloud, that's kind of been hanging over me since I want to say October. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. There was a news article that said that right now, between this year and last year, that the numbers for suicide and depression have actually risen. It's saying that for younger girls, it's gone up 51%. And this is just in the US alone. And for boys, it's gone up 4%. And I can actually admit that as a young man myself, I actually stumbled in that area. I thought that I kind of had everything together, and I've actually struggled with depression since I was younger. We've already kind of covered that base. I haven't had the easiest upbringing, but you roll with the punches and you just try to put your best foot forward. And I never kind of got the proper therapy for the things that had happened to me in the past. I kind of just accepted it for what it was and just stuck with the ideal of, if my bills are paid and I'm working, then kind of all my needs are met. And these things are still sitting. And I ended up in a toxic relationship, and the depression actually added or that actually added on to the depression. And it led me to attempting suicide.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you just for being just honest and vulnerable and about your struggle, because that's not easy. And I know people that who struggle with anxiety or depression, or who may not realize they struggle with it, might be in our audience, and that, you know, wanting to just end it all, or end the pain rather, and put a stop to the pain and the, the negative thoughts. So just thank you for being courageous, and thank God you're alive, because you're here with us, and you're here speaking. And so I'll I'll let you walk us through how you um you know led up to that, and what were the events that led up to that. And you did briefly mention, like, hey, you were in a toxic relationship. I've been there, and those aren't easy, whether you're in the middle of it or coming off a breakup. So I'll let you take the floor.
All right. And I definitely appreciate you for that. And definitely thank you for just understanding that it's not an easy situation for anyone to go through. However, God gets the glory. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that it's a lot easier that you have something that, or you feel something on the inside that isn't right. And having depression or any type of mental illness, whether it's anxiety or, schizophrenia or anything like that, is downplayed. Is speaking more of as a handicap. And so it's a lot easier to just say I can handle it or I can deal with it, instead of getting the proper professional help that is needed. And then when you're dealing with getting that professional help, due to the healthcare system, which that's a whole nother conversation, but it's financially just hard, without the proper insurance. So getting therapy alone, that's a whole task in itself. So we just try to put our best foot forward, and just kind of roll with the punches. And before you know it, you're either drinking too much, or you're smoking too much. In my case, I was smoking a lot of weed, and I was drinking, which actually it added to the depression. I thought that that was a form of help for me, but it actually made it worse. And you're just going until you actually end up losing control of your own actions. And I actually was out a night, and I did have liquor in my system, and I found myself backed into a corner to where I was being accused of something that I had absolutely no control over. And I needed an exit. I freaked out. I panicked. And, 1 minute you have complete control of your situation. And the next minute, you're literally fighting for your life, and you're just running. You're not running physically, but your mind is racing, and you're running mentally. You're trying to gain control of everything coming at you at once, and you lose control. And I found myself in a car. I was going about 100 miles an hour, and I called up my best friend, and I said, "Hey, I think this is it. I think that this is going to be the last time that I speak to you." And he basically was just trying to, be a good friend and just calm me down. And I knew that I was losing control. And I found myself actually buying a razor blade. And, still you you're not even realizing the steps that you're making. You're still running, you're still racing, and the adrenaline is pumping. And it's like you're saying this is it, but you don't know what you're doing until you actually do it. And I remember I got home and I made the first cut. And when I made the first cut, I was like, okay, I did it. This is real. But I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to just do this one cut. Like that's pointless. Like I still wanted an exit because I just got so tired of my demons, and the accusations. I felt like I was in a corner and I just wanted to get away. I wanted everything to be done. I didn't want the pain anymore. I didn't want the suffering anymore. And the only solution that I had was at the time that made sense was to take my own life because I felt like I was such an issue to the world. And I just didn't want to cause the world no more problems. And I felt like the world would be better if I wasn't here. So, I made the second cut and I made several other cuts after that. And, when you have alcohol in your system and you're bleeding, you do pass out. So I passed out and I woke up to paramedics, and they were asking me what my situation was and, why did I feel the need to do what I did? And I told them I needed help because I was in a bad relationship. And they told me that, they were going to help me get the help that I need, but it hadn't resonated with me yet. Like I knew what I just did and I knew what had transpired, but I didn't realize where I was going, what I had just did. So, you're in an ambulance and, I called up, I started making the phone calls that I needed, telling people where I was going and what happened. And that's when the ball started rolling. Remind you, you go from saying I'm perfectly fine to being in a situation where you're attempting to take your own life. Now, you can't see what's going to happen after that because you're still living in that moment. You haven't really kind of caught your breath yet and dealt with what you just did. It's still going. So I'm in an ambulance and I'm on my way to the hospital. And, I get to the hospital and anytime that happens, you're coded a number 1013. And that means that you've attempted to take your life. So when I get to the hospital, the nurses or the doctors, they looked at my cuts, they wrapped my wrist and they asked me, why did I do what I wanted to do or what was wrong, what was going on. And, then while speaking to the people that met me at the hospital, then starts the process of, okay, now you're in the hospital. So this is real. This is real life. So, I had to speak to a worker, like a counselor. She comes in with her paperwork and she asks me questions. Did I want to hurt myself and why? And if I use any type of drugs or paraphernalia or whatever. And, I admitted to all those things. And then she tells me that I'm gonna go somewhere and I'm going to get counseling. I'm like, great. So I already knew that I was going to probably be at the hospital for at least a night. And, mentally, I was already prepared. I knew I probably wasn't going to go home that day. So they give you a change of clothes. So I changed my clothes and I was wearing scrubs. and I went to sleep. And I was woken up by some more paramedics.
Take your time. I know it must be hard just trying to recall the events and putting yourself back at those moments because you've gained consciousness now and you're like, I'm here, I'm in a new place. And so I know that's incredibly hard, not easy. And I think we lost connection just momentarily, but um, yeah, that has got to be difficult, and there's a lot to unpack.
All right, we're back. Sorry about that. We had a little technical difficulty, but to catch us up, this is when I realized where I was going. So before we got left off, I was at a hospital due to attempted suicide, and they told me that I was going to be sent to a place to receive counseling. So I stayed at the hospital from about 1 in the morning until 7 in the morning. Then another, I guess, paramedics showed up to transfer me to the place where I was supposed to get counseling. Now, now on my way there, I took a slight nap. It was about a 30-minute drive, and I was strapped down on a stretcher from my feet to my legs to my arms to where I couldn't move. And they said it was for my personal safety. Okay. So I took a nap in the back of the ambulance. And then when I arrived, I started talking to the paramedic drivers or the EMTs about my situation. And I told them not to be like me, make better choices. I still didn't understand what exactly was going on. And that's when I found out that I had been sent to what used to be called a psychiatric ward, but they've now changed the name to a behavioral health clinic. And that started out as a process of intake. So, Phil, I don't know if you're familiar with intake, but intake is when they take you to a room and the chairs are screwed to the floor. There's a bench, there's one window, and you can see outside the door. And at intake, you're sitting in a room and you're being recorded because they want to see how you're going to respond to your situation. They have to see if you're violent. They have to look at all of your causes. And another counselor does come in and interview you and ask you questions. And you sit in that room for about 4 hours before you go up to your original floor. So during this, I sat, I slept, sat, I slept. I spoke to another counselor, and I start hearing people screaming and banging their head up against the wall and talking to people that wasn't there. And I'm kind of concerned because I'm saying, hey, I was told that I was getting counseling, but I'm starting to feel like I'm at a place that I've only seen in movies, and I'm wondering if I've been taken to the wrong place. So the counselor that I spoke with, she says, Terrence, you can grab your things. You're ready to, we're ready to take you up to your floor. And I said, okay. So remind you, I had already been given scrubs to wear and My wrists were already wrapped up from the cuts that I had placed or what have you. And, I speak to my counselor and I'm saying, hey, as we're walking into the elevator, I said, hey, I know where I am. Well, I know what the situation is, but I feel like you guys have mistaken me for someone else, or I think that I'm at the wrong place. She says, well, sir, did you try to take your life? And I said, yes, I did. She said, well, because of that, you are at a psychiatric ward. And I instantly, it was like someone kind of smacked me across the face, or if that final alarm went off when I knew I made a bad decision or I hit rock bottom. And I said, no, this can't be. You guys have made a wrong choice. I have a job. I got a family. Like, I can't do this. Like, this can't happen right now. And she said, don't worry. We'll make sure the proper procedures are met so your job will know and things like that. And I get in the elevator and I'm taken to the floor. Now, remember, I told you I was already coded 1013. So I was sent to another floor where there were other 1013s. And that's when the process started.
So you get to excuse me, you get to this facility, um, and you realize I'm I'm here. I'm at a psychiatric ward, and it doesn't look like I can just casually walk out. Like, I'm admitted, and I can hear a lot of screaming. I can hear that there are other people in this building that probably have severe issues, severe cases, you name it. So kind of walk me through, like, what was your reaction like to being there, and what were some of the things that you witnessed that evening? This is
Well,
late evening, early morning. What?
yeah, definitely early morning because I probably arrived at that hospital around 7:30, 8 o'clock after leaving from the other hospital. So it was still morning, and I was downstairs in the intake for about 4 hours. So I probably didn't get up to my original floor till about 12 or 1 in the afternoon. Now, while I was in intake, like I said, I heard people come, talking to themselves, banging their head up against the wall, wanting to fight imaginary people, and just everything that you can think of. When I got to my floor, that's like you said, that's when I realized, okay, this is a real deal. So they checked my vitals. That was one of the things that they did. And while I was waiting for to kind of figure out what the process was or what was going on or even how long I'm going to be in the situation, like, I was greeted by a young man that told me he was Jesus and handed me a Bible and told me to read it. So that was red flag number one. So I was taken to my room. I was shown my room, and I was met by my roommate. And I was greeted by one of the people, one of the nurses, and she asked me questions. You know, told me the rules and the regulations, and she let me know that if I was going to be uh, like if they were going to have any issues with me, like if I was going to display violent behavior or anything like that, or if they would have to kind of straddle me and kind of hold me down. And I told them no, like that's that's not going to happen. In my mind, I'm like, I shouldn't be here longer than a day or two anyway. So what? I have no idea what they're talking about. So I asked her, I said, well, how long am I going to be here? And she said, well, most people that come in, they're going to be here probably about 3 to 5 days. I said, okay, great. So, you know, then I started to kind of understand what was going on. And there's a process. They do check you for, scars or anything like that. Just like if you were going to jail. They want to see what you had when you came in, and if the goal is always for you to leave the same way that you came in. And they let me know that basically I can't have any visitors. There will be no shoestrings or whatever, no shoes, and basically anything. They wanted to make sure that I didn't have anything that I can hurt myself with, and that breakfast is at 7 o'clock in the morning. After that, we have these group sessions, which is kind of a therapy, our therapeutic grouping setting. And then you have lunch, and then you have dinner around 4 or 5 ish, and then bedtime is around like 10 o'clock. So you have someone that tells you when to wake up and when you go to bed. So it was the real deal. It was the real deal. And I didn't have my cell phone, so I couldn't contact anyone, and there there was very strict rules. So there was only a certain amount of people that really knew my situation and how to really get in touch with me. And at first, it started out with maybe like 2 or 3 people. And then later on, as time kind of progressed, that's when I had more people that were able to call in and check on me according to my badge number that I was given. So the people that were on the floor with me, uh, just to kind of give you an idea of the people that I was surrounded by, some of them were other 1013s. Some of them were, they had drug addictions. Some of them, I had one that was, he heard voices. I had one that was maybe, I guess you would call it schizophrenic. There were a couple of manic people that were bipolar. There was other people that, like they did have schizophrenic cases, to where, you know, maybe there was one age, but their personalities made them act like they're completely younger than what they were, unless they were given the right medication. And even cases, some of them were given the wrong medication, which offset their personalities, or things that it kind of triggered uh, the schizophrenia and made it worse, to say. There are people that weren't bathing because of their disability. It just, I saw all types of stuff, and when you're there, there's not much you can do except kind of sit and think. We couldn't go outside. We had word searches. We could color. We could talk to each other, but, there was no social media. There was no outside activities. We watched TV, and that was really it. So I had a lot of time to kind of sit and think and deal with the same faces and the same issues every single day for about 7 days straight.
Now that's a lot. And did you feel, was there was there a point where you started to feel at ease a little bit and you start to see there's a groove and that there's a like eventually I'll be able to leave?
I'll be honest with you. That ease didn't happen until about 2 or 3 days before I left because I had been given a date on when I was leaving. So, no, to answer that, no, because you don't know. I didn't meet my caseworker until about 4 or 5 days in.
Mhm.
They were really behind in that process. So I had no idea what was going on, how long I was going to be in there, if I was even going to get out, when I was going to get out. You know, I I had no idea, you know. And then, you see this doctor every day and he asks you how you're feeling, and they ask you the same questions. Do you want to hurt yourself or do you want to hurt anyone else? And rate your feelings 1 to 10, and you know, you do that, and then you know his job is to listen to your traits and try to come up with a medication if needed that can kind of calm it down. Now, I had already been prescribed depression. They had already said that he's suffering from depression, but I had no idea that I needed medication. I wasn't taking medication before I went in. I figured I didn't need medication. I figured I just need counseling. So he's sitting there and he's talking to me and he says, how do you feel about medication? And I'll be honest with you, I said no. The reason why I said no is because I had already seen so many people throw away their lives to these prescribed medications. And I was afraid that that might be me. And after going back and forth with the doctor, I finally agreed to take a medication. But I told them that if I felt any type of feelings that I would want to be taken off. And I asked them if we could meet that agreement, and they said yeah. So I'd been given medication, but I still hadn't been told when I was leaving. And that's when mentally you start to kind of spiral again because you're like, when am I getting out of here? No one's telling me anything. I got things that I got to do. I got a job. I got to. When am I leaving? Nobody's telling me anything.
Right.
And then that's finally when I think like the fourth or fifth day, I finally got to meet my caseworker, and she, gave me a blueprint of what's to be expected of when I get out. But I still didn't understand when I was getting out until maybe a day or two after.
Mhm.
So when, after dealing with all of the headaches, and just the stress of not knowing when you're going to leave, or you know what's going to happen and what's your future like, and if this is it, you finally figure out that you're going to be released on a certain day, and it's just like, man, you just get so excited and so rejoiceful. And I told myself I'm finally getting out, but I was worried that if I got out, that I would go back to the same thing that I was doing before. I was worried that I would go back to that same toxic relationship. So I had to mentally prepare myself to get ready for that, and make sure that I didn't make the same mistakes, and, get prepared for, you know, sobriety and going to therapy and, cutting off certain people and not dealing with certain things anymore because I had to protect my mental, you know. And it's definitely, you know, it's definitely been a process. I'm definitely, it takes a lot of hard work. And, I'm thankful for all the nurses that gave me encouraging words, everyone's prayers, that got me through this, and just helping me understand that I do have a purpose and that God has me here for a reason, and that, trying to solve an issue, a temporary issue with a permanent problem or with a permanent solution is not the right decision to make. You should get help, and that it's okay to not be okay. But one of the first major steps is getting help.
Right.
And I'm just really, you know, sometimes I just take a second and I just think about how fast my life changed in a matter of seconds. Like I said, you go from telling yourself, I'm okay, I got this, to running, looking for a nearest exit, to trying to solve it by removing yourself completely, to waking up in a situation that you have never been in before, surrounded by people that have either similar issues or a lot worse issues, to wondering if you're ever going to get out, to finally being able to be out of that situation and be able to be outside again. I for 5 to 7 days, I hadn't seen outside. I hadn't been in contact with society at all, other than a phone call. I forgot what that felt like. And so the first day out, I dealt with social anxiety. I had to get comfortable with being outside of the house again. I had to get comfortable with being free and being able to wake up when I wanted to, being able to shower when I wanted to, being able to eat when I wanted to, being able to do anything that I wanted to. Social media, friends, family. I had all this freedom again. And I'll be honest, it was very overwhelming. Very, very overwhelming. And there are times where I still have to take a second and breathe and understand that I'm not in that situation anymore. You know, I made it out. So it's a process. It's definitely a process, but I'm here.
And I'm glad you are here. And now that are, you've gained that freedom back. You've were able to exit the facility, the clinic. What were some of the things that allowed you to deal with your anxiety, the depression? What were some of the things that they put in your tool bag, so to speak? Because I know you touched on, weed and drinking, what were some of the things that you go to now instead of those false coping mechanisms from the past?
Good question. So with me being on the medication, I have to completely be sober. So going through sobriety alone and detoxing and things like that is a challenge on its own, and it takes a lot of strength, a lot of willpower. You can't associate yourself with certain people because that's all that they like to do. That is their social activity. So that's definitely a step. It's kind of like going to AA meetings. Another thing that I've done is reaching out to people that I go to church with. They help me. They hold me accountable. Staying on top of my medication, I have people that hold me accountable and make sure that I do take my medicine. That helps with my depression. As far as anxiety, and when I feel kind of weird or iffy about my situation, I personally I found healing in doing word searches and coloring. I know it sounds silly and you know kind of kid like-ish, but that's the thing. This situation has allowed me to kind of tap into my inner child again and kind of take my mind off of just being an adult. So for me, coloring and doing word searches, some people do Sudoku, some people do puzzles, you know, you can walk outside and kind of just, feel the breeze, go to Starbucks. It's those things that kind of allow us to kind of take our mind off of all the other things that add so much pressure and so much weight, and it gives us peace and healing. A lot of times, another thing is I'll count to 10. I'll close my eyes and take a deep breath, and one, Terrence, you got this. Two, Terrence, it's all in your mind. Three, Terrence, this is just temporary. Four, Terrence, you got this. And I'll count all the way till 10. And I'll tell myself, while taking deep breaths, that whatever it is that's bothering me, it's in my mind. And if I kind of free my mind from whatever it is, that I can get through it. I've dealt I since I've been out, I have had some run-ins with bad people or toxic people, and I've had to use those mechanisms to where I had to completely block out everything from my left and my right, and I had to recount my steps because every day is a new process. And this is something that I've explained to myself and other people as well. The old Terrence is gone, and I can't afford physically, mentally, financially, all that to go back to the old Terrence. I have to embrace the new Terrence. So every day is a new day, and not every day is going to be a good day or an easy day. So when you're faced with things that kind of make you want to revert back to the old way, you have to start right back at step one. Every day I wake up in the morning, I have to look myself in the mirror. I have to look at this medication that I thought I would never take ever. And I have to tell myself, today is step one of day one, every day, because I'm constantly learning something new. And I have to be comfortable that when things come up that may trigger me or make me feel anxious or depressed or uncomfortable, I have to, like you said, I have to reach in my toolbox and grab that word search puzzle or grab that affirmation book and read those positive messages or reach out to my accountability partners and say, hey, I'm having a issue here. I feel like I want to go drink a beer, or I feel like I want to go smoke a blunt, so they can actually tell me, hey, you don't need to do those things. Let's take a breather. Let's, you know, go for a walk outside, or, let's talk. Don't go to those same places that you used to go to when you used to do those things. Don't hang around those same people. And it's a challenge. It is. Because now you have people that are actually holding you accountable, making sure that you don't do those things. So you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be honest with these people. Every day is a challenge. But the thing is that you can't let one speed bump keep you from getting to the light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes in life, we hit things, we go through things. Sometimes we even hit rock bottom. But the greatest thing about God is that he kind of gives us a second chance to kind of get back up and kind of just keep moving forward.
Right.
You know, we all want eagerly to get to that light, but we're so scared, or we're so set back by the darkness. And sometimes the darkness is what we need to help us reset and get and redefine ourselves, and readjust ourselves, kind of reset, so we can get back to who we are supposed to be. If it wasn't for that toxic relationship, and if it wasn't for that hospital, and being in such a controlled area, I would have never gotten the help that I needed. So a setback kind of helped me, you know, get back to the victory, in a sense, you know. So I'm thankful, you know. I guess, like I said, I'm still adjusting. I'm definitely still adjusting.
I love that. I love that you you have a healthy perspective in terms of like, hey, every day's a new day and I'm not rushing the process. That you have accountability structure in order to stay on this path of healing that you're on, that you are taking your medication, that you're doing your word searches, you're coloring, you're making sure that you're not inviting in negative influences, whether it be negative people or whatever, anything that's negative, because you're realizing I got to protect my mind. I want to I want to be healthy. I want to stay healthy. My clearly your mental health matters to you. And so I'm proud of the work that you've done, and I think that's going to encourage people, or at least put a just food for thought, or get people to start thinking about where they are in their mental health journey, making sure that you're aware of your emotions. You probably, when you were the old Terrence, probably didn't know he was wounded, that he was suffering. And I think just you having this level of awareness, or to the person that you're saying, hey, I need to take the evening off just to relax and just chill because I got to take care of me. And I think we all need that. I know you touched on toxic relationship. Can you kind of tell us and share, like, what are some attributes or red flags of a toxic relationship that we need to avoid? don't necessarily have to, deep dive into your experience, but what are some things that we need to look out for?
Well, one of the biggest things that, you know, we kind of don't pay attention to is that most successful relationships are built off of communication and mutual feelings. And we end up wanting someone so bad that we don't realize that we're pouring into a cup that isn't pouring into us.
Mm.
There's no commitment. Now, not all relationships are the same, but for my situation, that's one of the things that was lacking.
Mm.
That I was in love with the fantasy that this person could be this if I did this, that, and whatever. And that person will never could ever love me the way that I wanted them to. But it was the idea, you know. So we end up totally disregarding the world and totally disregarding who we are truly on the inside to kind of camouflage ourselves to be this person that who we are with wants us to be until it's too late. You know, a lot of times a person will tell you exactly who they are if you just sit back and listen. Listen with your ears and think and kind of dissect what they're saying. You know, it's kind of like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This sounds really silly, but the only way we'll truly know if the sandwich is peanut butter and jelly is if what we take it apart and we look inside and we see the peanut butter and we see the jelly. So when we're trying to really involve ourselves with someone else on a deep level, we have to stop and really kind of dissect it for what it is and really try to get to know that person and not just try to get so caught up in the now. You know what I mean? Like it feels good, so I'm just going to run with it. And that's so hard to do. It's so hard to do because we lack that feeling and we want that feeling. But so when it comes, or the idea if it comes, we take it and run with it. You know, um, everybody has red flags. Everybody has red flags. There's 1,000 of them, over 1,000 of them. But the biggest thing is that I would say is ask yourself who you are on the inside and ask yourself if the person that you are looking at or if you want to be with, if they align with who you are on the inside. Is the connection real? Can you really benefit from this person? Not financially, not physically, but spiritually. Does what this person have to offer help you? Help you grow? Does it challenge you to grow? Are you doing what I did and just pouring into an empty cup, hoping that one day it will develop into something? You know, there, like I said, there's 1,000 red flags. There's around 1,000. You know, I had numerous amounts of people telling me every day that person's not good for you. That person doesn't love you. That person doesn't care about you. But I didn't listen. I had signs that were shown to me, plenty of red flags, but I didn't listen, you know. But the truth was there. Spiritually, we were not on the same level. As far as goals in life, we didn't want the same things, you know, and we were both hurting. Hurt people hurt people.
Right.
If I'm hurting on the inside, or if I have issues on the inside that I haven't resolved yet, I can't help someone else. I was trying to help someone and I hadn't even got over my stuff yet. That was the biggest red flag. You know, we could go back and forth about it. But like I said, it all revolves around the same thing. It didn't align with who I was on the inside. So, like I said, I guess that's my biggest thing. You know, commitment, communication, and really just asking yourself if they align with who you are on the inside. That's it.
I think those are great points that you've made as far as asking yourself, are you, when you're pouring, is it being reciprocated? Is it mutual? Because that kind of relationship is draining emotionally, mentally. And I can see how it doing that, right, for day after day, weeks, months, that can really wear down on you. And doing it hoping that you're going to there's going to be some sort of return, or that person's going to have a change of heart. And right, at some point, the logical step is to say, man, like, this isn't going to work. We have to break off, and we have to break ties. So the only thing I would add to that, in addition to, are they aligned with you spiritually? Do they line up with who you are? Listening to the people around you? Are they committed? Is knowing when to cut your losses. And I know breakup is hard, but I think that's the best thing you can do. Otherwise, you'll continue to go at a deficit. Someone in the relationship has to break ties. And the sad thing is, the person who has something something to lose has to be able to speak up. I know the person who doesn't have anything to lose, or is just not interested, or have nothing, they very well will keep things going as they are. So those are all just amazing points. And if anyone in the audience is dealing with toxic relationship, take a step back and just reevaluate. Is this person wanting commitment? If not, it's okay. It doesn't have to be an ugly breakup. You can just say, hey, I don't think our goals align, and we're just different people, and I think we can separate in a healthy way. It doesn't have to be ugly, and because the end goal is we all want to have joy in relationships and not be pouring and to where you're at empty. So, man, I'm so proud of the fact that you are able to make sense of all that. And tell me about what are your what are your hopes for the future, and what's keeping you going these days?
You know, it's funny that you asked me what are my hopes for the future. I spent a lot of time looking towards the future and really just putting everything towards, well, I want to do this and I want to do that. But due to the set of current events, I really kind of slowed everything down and just kind of sat down and I settled down. I remember I used to watch old people sit in this rocking chair and they would look so comfortable just rocking. And it never made sense to me. It never made sense at all. And now I kind of understand. So, my plans for the future, I don't have any. I just want to take everything one day at a time and make the right steps forward and learn every day and make sure that I never make the steps and go backwards. But as long as I wake up every day, that's more than what I can ask for. That's it. That's all I got. I mean, you know, I could sit here and tell you 1,000 things. Yeah, I want to work for a billion-dollar company. Actually, I already am. So that's checked off. Um, I want to get a house. I want to have a car. And all these other things. But the fact of the matter is that all of it's materialistic, and it doesn't even matter. The important thing is that I wake up every day and I get to see the people that I love, spend time with the people that I love, and influence or use my influence on people around me to give them a full life with Christ. And as long as I'm doing that, I'm happy. So that's it, Phil. That's it, man.
Well, I love it, and I love how you said you're learning, because I'm right there with you. Every day, I learn something new, and I can hear just your humility coming through and showing through, and how you just keep an open mind and you're taking one day at a time. And I trust that your best days are ahead, that you're stronger than you were before, and your best days are ahead. And so we'll close with that. Thank you for those who made it to this long in our podcast. Terrence, thank you for sharing your experience, your life. Just proud of how far you've come, and I trust that this will bless a lot of people in many ways. And your story is still unfolding, and you're going to influence a lot of people in a great way. So, to that, I'll say cheers wherever you are, whatever time zone. Good morning, good evening, and thanks for listening. Peace, y'all.
All right.